Okay, alright. We're going on an overland adventure. Lights on for effect. I wonder if I should have my reverse lights on too. No, that's stupid. We're going forwards. I think it'll definitely look more overlandy if I turn on my laser beams. Oh yeah, now that's what I'm talking about. It's getting a little dark in here. I'll switch on my surround lights too. Maybe my light bar too? Oh yeah, now we're definitely overlanding. These insanely bright lights sure do a good job of lighting up the road, even in broad daylight. Uh-oh, that's most definitely a dead end. Well, I guess I gotta back up the whole way. Beep, 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 beep. This is a long way to back up.
Okay. Oh, wait. You need your overland hat. You need to look overlandy, convincing. Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, this is stupid. No. Don't need overland hat. Just look normal. Just normal. Yeah, just. Okay, cool. Well, hey there, folks. My name is Alex, and this is the Slow Roamers channel. I am, at this very moment, going to commit the internet cardinal sin, which is share my opinion. And my opinion is that the Chevy Express 2500 is, in fact, the very best budget van overlanding platform. Yes, there it is, folks. There you have it. My opinion. Now, luckily, opinions are worth as much as, well, the paper they're written on, or what's the saying? Opinions are kind of like a nose, or a... Everyone's got one. And mine is pretty biased, so don't take me that seriously. So I am going to tell you why I have this opinion, and I think I'm reasonably well informed considering our use case on this particular channel, and I believe that my input can probably help someone out there that is in the current throes of making a decision on what van they would like to do, especially if they intend to combine overland and van life and make a beautiful union of van overlanding. So here we go. So I'd like to preface all that I'm about to say with this, that I'm not actually here to convince you of anything. I just thought it was kind of a catchy title and might make a good video, and yet again, it might help someone. I'm just here to help people. I'm not really here to prove anything. So let's start with the basics. This particular model of Chevy Express comes with a 4.8 liter V8 Chevy LS, which, as you may or may not know, is quite a reliable and reputable engine. So far, we've been quite happy with it. It's a little bit underpowered for this particular model, but I think it's safe to say that underpowered isn't necessarily a bad thing. You may take a little bit longer to get up hills, but you're not going to wreck anything by putting too much horsepower down. And yet again, in this particular Chevy Express model, it is equipped with a 4L80E 4-speed automatic transmission. These transmissions come in most Express vans. Some of them get a 4L60E, and I'm not sure if there's any other variations, but it's an extremely reliable transmission. It's put behind engines with far more horsepower, and it holds up just fine. The one thing I would suggest doing is, if you intend to buy a Chevy Express and load it up like we have, we're almost at 9,000 pounds right now, put in a transmission cooler. This will just prevent any future damage to overheating and burning clutches. So this van is actually considered a 3/4 ton. However, that is only due to the size of the engine. It is actually a 1-ton chassis. And all that means is that everything is built just a little bit more robust, able to handle a lot more weight. This is a contractor van. It's meant to be ripping around cities, carrying lots of tools, lots of materials, and all of that heavy stuff. So it really has to be able to handle all of the weight. Getting a 2500 or even a 3500 means that your suspension is going to be just bigger, and also your brakes are going to be bigger. Stopping is kind of important. I'm also a pretty big fan of this particular wheelbase in the Chevy Express. They do make a longer wheelbase, which is typically the 3500 models. However, this gives you a really well-balanced interior space and remains really good off-road. Having a narrower wheelbase off-road is a far better decision because you have less off-track and you're less likely to be high-centered, which is rarely a good thing. So this van is about as manual as you can get aside from the automatic transmission. It's got manual door locks, manual windows. Do you remember those kids? Some kids haven't even grown up with manual windows, like rolling windows. That's just weird to me. No AC, not much of a radio, no cruise control, no heated seats, no air conditioned seats, and no number of other doodads that manufacturers put in their vehicles nowadays. And that's the way I like it. I think a simple vehicle is best because when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're chasing down electrical gremlins, that's like my worst nightmare. I want to be able to jury rig something to get me out of the trail back to civilization because I'm not an electrician and I'm not a tech, and more often than not cars have to be plugged into a computer to know what's wrong with them nowadays. And I think for long extended remote travel, that's not ideal because dealerships don't exist everywhere. Of course, you have to make your own decision. You may want AC. I understand that in certain parts of the southwestern states, that's extremely important, and I get that. And personally, I probably wouldn't mind AC. Any of the other stuff, it's just prone to go wrong at some point. Now, it may be very far in the future, but who knows? Maybe something goes wrong and you don't know how to fix it. And that can be a problem when you're out in really remote locations. Enough said about that. So one kind of inconsequential thing that I like about this particular van, and something that I make a point of having on all of my vehicles, are these 5x7 headlights. And yeah, you guessed it, the reason I like them so much is because they're simple. They're easy to change, and if you go to Amazon, there is so much selection. This van came factory with halogen sealed beams, and they didn't shoot very far, so I just put these auxbeam LED headlights in, and we get way more light, way better reach, and they save on power. Not that that really matters, but you know, easy, simple, and available. You can find these things pretty much all over the world. That's kind of cool. All right, now that I've crawled under the vehicle, you'll see that we have your very standard, very basic dual control arm suspension setup. We have a upper and a lower control arm, a coil and a shock in the middle. This is a 1-ton package, so the ball joints are just a little bit bigger, as well as the tie rods, the coil, and the inner tie rods are all just a little bit bigger than if it was a 1500 model. I really like this suspension setup because it's fairly easy to work on and fairly easy to upgrade. If you wanted just a small lift, you can put a coil spacer under here, which will lift the van maybe an inch or inch and a half or something like that. In our case, we have a 3-inch Vortec lift spindle, which all it does is it drops the hub down 3 inches. This is really important because it keeps the factory geometry on the control arms, which means your ball joints have the best wear life possible. Also, one thing that I like about the Chevy suspension is that to change out the shock, it's just 2 10 mils on the bottom and then your nut on the top of the shock, and it just drops right out. You can do it on the trail fairly easy, and yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it while the van just sits on the ground. Yeah, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? So the Chevy Express 2500 comes factory equipped with the 1-ton Dana 60 semi-float rear axle. We have upgraded ours to a Dana 70 HD3 Super. It's a full floating rear axle with a 7,500 pound load capacity and a power lock LSD. This just gives us more traction and obviously a larger load capacity. Also, the full float rear axle is just easier to work on. I can pull the axles out of here without ever having to remove the wheel, which is again kind of something that I like and I geek out about. However, if this is not something that you are worried about, the Dana 60 is a fantastic rear axle and it will really hold up to a lot of abuse. Oh, now I gotta get out of here. All right, let's talk about engine upgradability for just a moment here. This van comes from the factory floor with a very base model 4.8 liter V8 LS. If I wanted more horsepower, I could just go to the junkyard, get a 5.3 or 6 liter, swap it in probably a day and drive away with way more horsepower. The only difference in the Chevy LS 4.8, 5.3 and 6 liter is the stroke and the bore. Otherwise, physically, the engine is exactly the same, and that's just the beauty of the LS platform for engines. They make tons of horsepower and they are very reliable. So that's a great thing. Maybe if we were going to be keeping this van for a super duper long time and wanted more horsepower, we'd put a 6 liter in there. I really wouldn't mind. It would be great being able to climb hills faster. So yeah, LS's. So now that we're on the topic of upgradability, if you're a tall person like me and you don't necessarily relish the idea of having to be bent over all the time in your factory height van, you can put a high top on your van, and it's actually pretty easy. This high top is from our friends Mike and Lindsay at High Top Vans based in Washougal, Washington. If you guys have a Ford Express, if you guys have a Chevy Express or a Ford Econoline van and you want a high top, make sure to reach out to them at hightopvan.com. and make sure to let them know that the Slow Roamer sent you. The beauty of this top is that it has a reverse flange design. Now, Chevy Expresses have the reverse flange, and for whatever reason, Ford Econolines don't. They have a different style. With this design, once you fill up the underside of that reverse flange and screw it down to the top of the van, it's basically completely watertight. No water's gonna get in there. That's pretty good because leaks suck, so if it's me, I choose the Chevy Express roof for a high top modification. Thus far, this vehicle has been incredibly easy to work on. Every single time I go in and take something apart, things seem to be sensibly designed. It's just nuts and bolts on the inside, no proprietary parts or clips, or at least not a lot of it. Huge bonus when you're out in remote locations. If you're traveling within North America, parts are easy to source. Yeah, I've been continuously impressed by how easy this vehicle is to work on, which is a massive bonus when you're fixing stuff on the road or in remote locations. So I give Chevy a big gold star for just making a vehicle that is easy to work on. Now that we're kind of on the topic of maintenance and upgrades, so one thing to take note of is that Chevy has stayed fairly consistent with parts selection in this iteration of the Chevy Express. So I believe everything from 2013 to almost present is interchangeable. There's no like proprietary to a certain model or certain year, whereas I believe Ford does something like that in their Econoline vans. Sometimes you get like weird little differences or changes that they've made, whereas you can take a wheel bearing from a 2003 Chevy Express and put it onto a 2013 Chevy Express. It's really great just for parts availability, of course, and you can go to a lot of wrecking yards and find used parts, and they will just work easily within this model of Chevy Express. So this wouldn't be a proper review without me telling you about the negative aspects of a Chevy Express, which there are a few. First and foremost, the Chevy Express and Silverado from 2013 to some other year have the dreaded Chevy brake rattle, which is an issue with the front calipers and the brake pads. This little divot in the brake pad wears out and it creates play, and you get a really loud and obnoxious rattling from the front brakes. Now this happens typically if you see a lot of gravel road or corrugations, but nonetheless it will likely happen to any vehicle at some point. And I have tried so many different fixes to remedy this problem, and seemingly the only option is for me to completely replace the caliper and the brake pads, or constantly go in and replace these little slider clips, which is a total pain in the butt. That really sucks that there is something that can't really be fixed without buying an entirely new part. That's really expensive, and that rattle is really, really annoying if you know what I'm talking about. So keep that in mind. I didn't know about the Chevy brake rattle before I started working on this vehicle, and Unfortunately, it's something that I'm likely going to have to put up with unless they come up with some kind of fix. Secondly, the rear axle, that Dana 60 that I mentioned that comes factory in the 2500 models, is a semi-float rear axle, and it's a weird one-off design that was made specifically for the Chevy Expresses. There's not a lot of aftermarket support, hence the reason we upgraded. We wanted a traction aid, so either a locker or an LSD in the back, and there's not really much available for the Chevy Express model of Dana 60. So that's something to keep in mind. It's unfortunate. However, I just found a Duramax 2500 HD rear axle and it bolted right in. So there's that option for you as well. And lastly, the Chevy Express paint. What I know of what happened is there's some kind of issue with the primering on the Chevy Express vans, and so a huge swath of years, the white paint on all of the contractor vehicles just peels off in sheets. And I think there's maybe a factory recall, but it's something to be aware of if you are a prospective buyer of a Chevy Express contractor van. If you've been following along the Slow Roamers channel for quite some time, you'll know by now that we kind of like to get after it as best we can with the two-wheel drive delivery van. If you are new here and unfamiliar with why exactly we are overlanding and off-roading with a two-wheel drive vehicle, a little bit of history has to come into play. When I met my partner Meg, she already had the van, and when we were discussing which vehicle we would choose to live out of and travel out of for long periods of time, we made the decision to use the vehicle we already have. It's kind of like camera gear. The best vehicle or camera is the one you already have. We threw around the idea of 4x4 swapping the van for a long period of time, and ultimately decided that we would save the money that we'd spend on a 4x4 swap and put it towards travel, which is our prerogative. I come from a pretty lengthy history of off-roading. I've had tons of Toyota pickups. I've been all through the BC backcountry, up and back to Alaska and Yukon a couple times. And when I started thinking honestly about how often I engage 4x4, I realized that it wasn't a whole heck of a lot. In fact, it was really only when I was on super technical trails that I didn't really have to go on. So this led to me kind of coming up with the frame of mind that I can make it to 95% of the places that I want to go in this van and 100% of the places that I need to go. And I think that is a very, very important skill to have, that differentiating between needs and wants when you're in the backcountry. So with all that being said, that is why we have a two-wheel drive van, and thus far it has gotten us to 95% of the place, well, probably actually like 99% of the places that we want to go. It's been pretty great, and so I don't believe that you absolutely 100% need a four-wheel drive vehicle to overland or even to really off-road. So after the past collective 2 years and 70,000 kilometers of living and driving in this van, that Chevy Express over there has not once left us stranded on the side of the road or broken down. This is not to say that Chevy is better than Ford or Dodge or any other brand out there. It's saying that it's well designed, and I stay on top of maintenance. At present, this van has 230,000 kilometers on the engine, and I fully trust it to effortlessly take us all the way down from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories to Ushuaia, Argentina, which is 30,000-ish miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but all that being said, I think that the Chevy Express is an extremely good platform for overlanding and van life. It's easy to upgrade, easy to maintain, easy to work on, easy to find, and relatively inexpensive. So if you are looking to purchase a vehicle for your van life overland journey, my suggestion is the Chevy Express. I think it's a really great vehicle. Well folks, I hope in some kind of way this video has helped you make a decision as to what you're going to use next on your van life overland adventure. And I hope you find yourself out in nature soon. Until the next one, keep on roaming. Later. Testing, testing, testing. Well, hey there, folks. All right, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Moves a lot of weight, has lots of horsepower. It's just like wham, 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 wham. So yeah, I can do that, and that's really great. I like that about Chevy. Oh yeah. Oh, doo-doo-doo. All right. Oop. Yep, doing this super. Ninja, I'm a ninja. All right, channel your inner Spider-Man. Okay, here we go.